One-foot-flipper.
Hi, Paige here, the 1 Foot Flipper. How's it going, everybody? It's been over a week, but I've got a reason for that. Honestly, the reseller life isn't that great right now, so I've been taking it easier and concentrating on the real life stuff. So I'm really big on miniatures and terrains in my fantasy role-playing game, so lately I've been working on building complete rooms. Here is one that I finished right here, and here's what I'm working on. I don't need to make any certain amount of money, so there's no reason for me, honestly, to be running at 100 miles an hour on a market that's not going to want to accept that stuff when I pump it in at 100 miles an hour. I'll work harder when the market's better, because I don't have to right now. So I'm kind of just cruising. And the same thing with the videos. I'm not going to be remonetized on YouTube, I think, for another month and a half, so I'm not putting out videos just to put out videos. You know, I'm making sure I actually have something to say. Okay, I sold an American Girl doll ski set, the helmet, along with the boots and the skis and the gloves and the poles and all that. Sold for $30, plus shipping, of course. Now, it's getting to the point where Timmy has started getting his tax refund back, which means that the hobby stuff is really starting to move again. This is a 40-piece Warhammer Tyranid army. Sold for $150. Got this from Zach, so a bunch of money's going to go on his spreadsheet. It's nothing really to look at. It's a bunch of unpainted monster figures. This bag has 50 fantasy plastic goblins in it. Most of them are not painted. This sold for $55. The basic plastic soldiers aren't worth very much regardless of what faction they are. When it comes to plastic, it's only the heroes and such that have a lot of value. This bag of 30 fantasy orc boys, which are all painted, sold for $27.37. Yeah, so being painted did not make them worth anymore, did it? And finally, this baggie of these are all metal Warhammer figures. They're mostly of the Eldar faction, which are kind of like space elves. 8 of them painted, sold for $36.11. I don't need to make a certain amount of money. In fact, even though it's been a slow year so far, I've invested over $8,200 this year. That's probably my entire, I haven't figured it out, but that's probably my entire actual take-home for the year, after taxes and everything, or close to it, because it's been slow. And the IRA account that I actively manage is up a little bit for the year. But the 2 accounts that have the bulk of our retirement funds are down for year to date because they're mostly index funds. And the stock market has not been happy with the new president continually threatening changes that would turn industries upside down. Whether it be positive for them in the long term or negative for them in the long term, the market does not like changes, particularly threats of changes. So the market is down year to date. See this? This is the last golf club I had in my basement. It's a Callaway Big Bertha 3-iron steel, sold for $23.04. Now I own no more golf clubs. This was the only one of Julie's American Girl doll collection that was actually an American Girl doll. The rest were our generation, and this young lady sold for $60. I don't know if Julie's getting that money or not. Me and Mom haven't discussed it. Sold 2 issues of Challenge Magazine for $29.48. Not all old magazines are bad. Sold this Warhammer Leviathan new open box gaming mat, $33.64. This is more like a hard playfield. It's not one of those soft mouse pad type of things. So right now I'm just continuing to basically list death pile and things that people bring to me. Although I did get out of the house yesterday and I went to the bins with Meta Bubbles because he had the day off, and if he's going to go sourcing with me, I'm not going to say no to that because first I get to hang out with Meta Bubbles, and second I got 2 bodies picking the bin rather than 1. So we were trying to only pick items that we thought would sell for $10 or more. Then at the end when we price checked, we threw back anything under $5. And we only kept items between $5 and $10 if they were an easy list, easy ship item, you know, bam, bam, photo, poly mailer, you know, nothing that I'd have to build a box for or have a bunch of packing material. Those we kept. Now, I plan to gradually increase those numbers over time, but yesterday was not the day to go for $20 plus items only. We were about the 150th people in line when the bins opened, so neither one of us were the first eyes on anything. Right now on my eBay account, I've got a hard minimum price of $5. I don't list anything under $5. If it's not worth $5, I probably throw it away at this point. And I'm working to try to move my median listed up. Now the median is not the average, the median is the number in the middle. The median number between 2 and 152 is, I think, 76. Actually, I think the average is there too. But anyway, the median number is the number in the middle, of which half of your listings would be below it and half would be above it. Right now, my median is $11.61. That's up about 30 cents in the last month, but that's not very impressive. But the median is a hard number to move when you have 1,600 listings and the market is slow and you use a 3% monthly markdown schedule. So my stuff's going to automatically, for the most part, move. My median's going to move down 30 cents on its own, so I've got to work against that to make it go back up. Okay, somehow I sold 3 of these, but I only have 1 of them, so that's going to be an issue. They're about $10 each. No idea how things like that happen. Sold this Wabash Railroad hat, $12.14. Bedwetting alarm, new in box, $10.99. Sales are definitely up from earlier in the week, I can say that. Magic the Gathering Warhammer Universes Beyond deck, $120. That's about double or triple its original sale price 2 years ago. This is an 8mm VCR. Does not play VHS tapes. It plays 8mm tapes. $50. I recall it having a tracking issue or something, and that's in the description. One of my wife's picks, jukebox salt and pepper shakers, $3.47. I don't like glass. I've had this a long time. At least this was listed at least 4 years. Shades of Grey, a third-party Dungeons and Dragons supplement, sold for $17.88. I priced this lowest on the website probably 3 to 4 years ago, and it got marked down 3% every single month and finally sold. Warhammer Necron Dynasties Commander deck for Magic the Gathering, $180. Not bad. I mean, I don't get all that money. Both those Warhammer decks are consignment for Peter, but I definitely get some of it. I'm boring today. Dinosaur Puzzle, $5.94, sealed. One of my daughter's retired critters, Mayoni Tots, Orange Striped Cat, $5.40, sold in 2 days. Whenever I'm at the bins, I always look at binders. Both because they might have something interesting in them, and some of the binders are interesting themselves. This is an IBM binder with the early 80s, late 70s logo on it. It's leather, and it sold for $27. And I had probably $1.25 into it. Brand new York Heating and Cooling hat, $13.82. Who would have thought that would have sold? It was a sample. This box, I've got a box back here. It's a lot of 33 CDs. Sold for $26.02. And you know, when in doubt, part it out. This is the base unit to a Hart canister, cordless canister vacuum. Sold for $26.19. I bought 2 of these at $5 each and decided to part them out instead of selling them singly. And I think I've only got a couple of parts left, and I got already double what I would have gotten if I would have sold them whole. Now, some of you have been following my investments because I'm investing most of the money that I make on eBay and YouTube from this point forward, unless we actually need money for the day-to-day. We keep our checking account at a certain level, and everything above that we invest. My holdings from most to least valuable right now are AGNC. That's a real estate investment trust that has a very high dividend. That's the word. Wendy's, Mercedes-Benz, Lockheed Martin, SPLG, that's an exchange-traded fund that mirrors the S&P 500. I believe it's an extra leverage fund, so they borrow money to buy more stocks or whatever. Ameren, which is my local electric company, so if they're going to raise my rates, at least I'll make some money off of it. Ford, because I believe they're in the least trouble of any of the American car companies, Vail, which is a mining stock, Callaway Golf, only got a little bit of money in that, and Virgin Galactic, you know, Richard Branson and his spaceships. I'm overall up with a total value of $7,719. Now remember, I only started this account this year. And I'm overall up $163 since I started the account in January in a market that's overall down in the same time period. Now I just want to remind everybody, I am not a financial planner or advisor. I do stupid things like throw $30 at Virgin Galactic on the off chance that they get their spaceships working before they run out of money. Hey, I wanted to give a shout out to one of my customers. They have a YouTube channel, The Old School PC. They recently purchased a rare box and manual set from me, and it just featured in their video about the rarest sound card in the world. Link in the description. And that video got a lot more views than my average video did. Alright, I sold this 3-pack of old 1950s playing cards. Samba Canasta pack, $8.77. When I find these, I know that they're easy money. Not much money, but it's easy at least, because it's an easy list, easy ship. This Olympus digital camera, also pretty easy list, easy ship, $36.85. No accessories, but I did test it. Quark cartridge for the Game Boy, $5.40 plus shipping. Paid more for shipping than for the cartridge. It's the time of year when softball and baseball helmets are selling again. This Rip It helmet sold for $14.43, and by their weights, I usually pay about $4 for them because I find them at the bins. So it's about a $10 profit, and I've got the right boxes usually on hand, so it's no big deal to ship them. I've got quantity on this Magic the Gathering Kaldheim Commander deck, still new and sealed, sold for $40. And finally, I sold a 2002 MLB Showdown Draft Pack. That was actually for a baseball-based card game. That sold for $17.99. I have quantity on that. It's just they're upstairs, and I forgot to bring one down before I filmed. Sold this Pontiac GTO hat for $9.22. I would have had 35 cents into it. Not a lot of money, but easy pack, easy ship. Paige, we want to know about the topic. Where were you banned from? Where were you banned from? Was it the 7-Eleven? So I was recently given a lifetime ban from a site. And no, it wasn't eBay or one of the 17 live selling sites. It was Vented. Have you ever heard of Vented? I only barely had. However, my cross-listing software, Crosslist.com, which I recommend, they support the site. Got a link and a discount code down in the description if you want to try it out. And I get a little bit of money for that if you sign up under my code. So, thanks. So I import all my hat listings to that site, and I promptly stopped thinking about the site. I get a few messages over the course of a month saying they had removed or hidden a few listings due to wrong descriptions, and since I was listing on a bunch of the same things on a whole bunch of sites, I just deleted those listings off Vented because I didn't care. They were on a bunch of other sites at the same time. But it never said what was wrong with those items. Then, one day, last week, I got 3 separate messages saying that they removed listings due to misleading or incorrect brand names, along with another message informing me that I had earned a lifetime ban for my fraudulent activity. Now I thought to myself, this is probably caused by incorrect item specifics by hitting sell similar on somebody else's listing. You know, they'll have the brand listed wrong. But then I looked at the 3 offending listings, and every single one of them had the correct brand and item specifics. None of them had anything wrong in the item specifics. And I don't even think it was any off-the-wall version of Vero gone wrong, because all 3 of the brands were custom imprint brands. Like Outdoor Cap and Richardson, you know, the sort of company you call if you want to have 1-foot-flipper hats made or have hats made for your minor league ball team that you manage. It's that sort of company. So I don't know what was going on with that, but I guess be careful listing anything on Vented or going too deep into Vented, which I don't even know if it's that good in the first place because I never sold a single thing there. Although what I plowed in there wasn't very good either. Hey, thanks for hanging out to the very end. If you know anybody else with a lifetime ban on anything, such as a certain reseller we won't name who is no longer allowed inside a certain Florida Buc-ee's, then why don't you tell them about this channel? Because I mostly do this to make the subscription number get bigger.
See, that's One Foot Flipper's nonsense video.
So, now that it's just us, my wife has been rewatching How I Met Your Mother, which means that I'm also stuck rewatching How I Met Your Mother, at least half the time. Well, most people observe such that TV shows about young adults who live in New York are always terribly unrealistic. You know, like Friends. They live in apartments they couldn't afford. They manage to sit around in a reserve booth in their favorite hangout anytime, day or night, and they can always get together despite having schedules that were never allowed. Like Robin and Monica, they both had evening jobs. Robin was a newsreader. You'd never see her at night. Monica was a chef, which means she'd be working at night 5 to 6 nights a week. But in rewatching, I realized something else. Every one of these shows is full of unicorns who constantly and easily meet other unicorns and have relationships with them. What I mean by unicorns is an unmarried, attractive person with a prestigious job that is seemingly immune to alcoholism despite the fact they hang out in bars all the time, who are not in a relationship and have little to no baggage in the form of children, divorces, drug problems, facial tattoos, any of that. Sure, sometimes on the shows, individual characters will go off the rail a little bit, like Ross was divorced on Friends and he had a son, but the son got mentioned so little after the first season that they lampshaded it later by having his own grandfather had forgotten about him. So think about it. What percentage of men out there are Teds? You know, a 34-year-old dreamy architect with no girlfriend, who's never been married, has no children, no criminal record, no history of substance abuse besides eating a few sandwiches in college. Then, how do these 1 in 1,000 Teds find their female unicorn counterparts time and time again? I remember being that age. Everybody you knew was either matched up or had serious baggage. And when you did meet a unicorn, it usually turned out that they were actually in the closet, or they were waiting for the unicorn of unicorns that never comes along. And when you inevitably run into them at a party 20 years later, they are still single, never been married. So I think the fact that Joey, Barney, and Ted can just cold approach attractive women out in public, and almost all of those attractive women seem to be single, is the least believable part of shows about adult friends who live in New York City. Oh, final. I do want to note that the unicorns that the main cast date on the various shows are always a slightly lesser class of unicorn than the main cast. They usually have one singular piece of baggage or issue just to prove that they're not the one that the main cast member is supposed to end up with. Got any opinions on this? Post them in the comments.